Hi, Trevor here, Life Reflection Requests. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. It's great you're here. Well, we're breaking into this series with this request that was given to me this week. So here we go today. And it was to a bit of context, in the 1970s, we had disco well and truly taking over the world. And it was around 1980 that there started to be a bit of a backlash against that, and we needed something new. Also in the 1970s, we had the Jackson 5. And of course, when you talk about the Jacksons, we're talking about American music royalty. And while they were doing their thing, Michael Jackson, who was very much taking up lead vocals, often with the Jackson 5, was establishing himself in his own right. And in the 1970s, he actually had 5 solo albums. But he was looking to make a bit of a break and to find his own way in the music industry a little bit at that point, and needed an album to do that. So in 1982, work began on what would become, when we talk about albums, this as the album pretty much in music history. It was the top seller in the world for such a long time, and is currently number 2 in the best-selling albums of all time. So it was about around the age of 23 that Michael Jackson started recording and working on the album Thriller, and of course the rest is history. And then after his 24th birthday, this album was released on the 30th of November 1982 by Epic Records, 3 years after his last album. We all know the significance of this album. There were 7 singles released off this album, including Billie Jean, which of course ushered in that iconic moon dance move, that moonwalk move, I should say, that Michael Jackson brought to the world. We also had Beat It, which had the iconic lead guitar solo from Eddie Van Halen. Rest in peace, Eddie, that is for sure. And there were some Toto musos in there, including Steve Lukather, who provided some of the MIDI guitar and Beat It and a few of the other albums. And so very much Toto alumni was part of this album. And of course, Quincy Jones was the producer. And when this album was released, it took the world by storm. Oh, of course, we also got to remember there was a duet collaboration with Paul McCartney. And so there you go. What more do you need than that to give an album absolute the grunt that this album actually got? And so what can we say about this album? It was 37 weeks as number 1 in the US. In fact, 9 countries around the world, it was number 1. In fact, I remember in Australia, I reckon it was on the top of the charts for at least a year. Very significant release in Australia. It's estimated this album, well, last time I looked, 70 million copies were sold worldwide. That's 34 times platinum. And so therefore one of the greatest albums of all time. This album has been inducted to the Grammy Hall of Fame. It's been inducted into the Library of Congress National Registry, and the music video for Thriller, which I'll get onto a little bit, is in the National Film Archives in the US. And so culturally significant as well as sales significant. 70 million albums sold is pretty significant. Now, this album has been kind of categorized as post-disco, because as I've said, disco is kind of leaving the world at this point. A bit of funk definitely, pop definitely, rock definitely. This is a bit of a departure for Michael Jackson to a bit of some darker themes, and certainly starting to explore the depth of emotion and all the rest of the stuff that you can do when you're as iconic as Michael Jackson actually is. Of course, we already know how good a performer he is, how he just captured audiences. Of course, Michael died in 2009, and that was a bit of a shock to all of us, really. A bit of a worldwide loss, that one. But while he was part of this world, we know how good an entertainer he was, how iconic his dancing was. Let's not understate his dancing. and how good his voice was. And to be able to sing and dance and do all of that sort of stuff at the same time just shows that he really was an all-round performer. Had incredible nuances to his voice, and his range was pretty phenomenal. So a real loss to the world when he died and left us in 2009. And very much the king of pop. It's very much a mantle that was well and truly on his shoulders, that is for sure. And the king of pop went on to release 10 studio albums in his own right, and it's estimated he has sold 400 million albums. Now, to give a bit of context here, the Beatles have sold 600 million, and they're the highest sellers of all time. So 400 million is pretty significant. And so, what can we take away from Thriller? Of course, I think for me the big takeaway, and the thing I love about Michael Jackson, is his attitude. There's almost a bit of angst, I need to find my own way in this world kind of vibe to this album. And it just goes to show, if he hadn't had the courage to actually branch out on his own and to do his own thing, we would have never got this iconic album. So I think the takeaway from Thriller is very much this, and that is we should not be scared to try and discover who we are, trying to discover who it is that what difference we can make in this world. But the courage needed to really, really do that. Now, of course, Michael had people around him at this point, and of course, Quincy Jones, very impressive credentials even before Thriller came out. And that kind of helps. But Michael Jackson needed the grunt to be able to go out and do this thing on his own. And certainly after doing that at the age of 23, and of course Thriller came out when he was 24, that's a pretty brave thing to be able to do at that age. And the world has well and truly benefited from that move, that is for sure. So if you're one of these people, particularly if you're younger and you're thinking, oh, I wonder what this world's going to do, well, you need to take a step away, take a step of courage, and to do what you reckon you might be able to do, and to see where it takes you. Because worldwide heroes like Michael Jackson have found their way because they have done that, and they said, well, I'm going to chart my own course and chart my own way of being. So may the Thriller story encourage you today. Because as we get on to today, there was more to Thriller than just the songs. It's what went along with this album that has made this so successful. And we might as well get on to clips and to talk about one of those things right now. So when the song Thriller came out, of course, we had songs like Beat It and Billie Jean. But when Thriller came out, Michael Jackson said, oh, I'm just not going to do a 3-minute video clip here. I'm going to make a mini movie out of this song. And so we ended up with a 13-minute dance singing movie extravaganza that took the world by storm. Very much telling the story of Thriller. And of course, when we talk about Thriller, we're talking about zombies and ghoulies and the rest of it. And of course, one of the best dancing sequences of all time for Michael Jackson in particular is in Thriller. And he certainly does catapult us into a new story and a new experience. And so what I've got below is I've actually got a link to the 13-minute version of Thriller. So, you think, oh, 13 minutes, that's a long time. But no, it's not at all. Not when you realise that the mastermind genius behind this, Michael Jackson, taking off his dancing, his singing, the whole thing, his just imagination was just second to none. And so I've got the 13-minute version of Thriller. And I thought also we might as well put the edited, shortened version of Thriller in there as well, because it's always good to sometimes go shorter if we want to. That's about a 3-minute version of that one. And I thought I'd also go for a live version as well. There's nothing like the live version of Thriller as well. This is from Wembley in 1988. And so you get to see Michael Jackson live and what made him such an iconic performer. And so the links to those 3 videos are in the description below. So please check out what was an iconic song from an iconic album from an iconic performer. Well, if you have, thank you for the guy who made this request today. It's great to be in conversation. Says, hey, how did you think about let's do this? And that video clip, for Michael Jackson, that long one. and I immediately thought of Thriller, so that's where we are today. Well, if you've come back for another video, or if this is your first time to Life Reflections Through Music, welcome to the channel. So great for everyone to be around, and if you'd like to make a request, feel free to drop it in the comments below. Well, that's it for today. We'll get back onto our series next time with Don McLean and his iconic song American Pie. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.